Dudes and dudettes. So, okay, we're back. It's a week later, but we're back. I took the liberty of putting the decals on. I mean, all you guys know how to do decals. So I wasn't going to bore you with that. I also wasn't going to bore you with all the little detailed painting of the yellow bits, you know, like that, and the pipes and the couplers. You know, that's basically a very dark, soft black or a very dark, raw umber color, because that's a good base on a coupler to start weathering from. All right, so I've done the other side. I'm going to show you now. I've done the other side to show you what it is like when it's dry. That way we won't have to wait for and do another video, you know, to wait for this lot to dry. Okay, now we're going to do a wash, an acrylic wash. And there's a lot of ways people do this or whatever. For me, an acrylic wash gives a hell of a lot of color modulation, and it gives you control. And that's the most important thing. It is one of those weathering methods where it doesn't take as long as enamel washes to dry, so your effect is there quicker. And you can also, because the water and stuff makes it a hell of a lot thinner, your effect can be more subtle. So you can layer and make it, you know, even a little bit darker or whatever as you carry along. Now, carry on. So now this one, as we said on the previous video, I don't want it too dirty because these were normally fairly clean. But I also want this to be one of the older versions. So a little bit of brown in it, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but, you know, not overdo it. Okay, so let's start by the basic wash. Now, what I'm going to use for this is I'm going to use burnt umber from Deco Art, you know, Americana. This stuff, very, very good paint for weathering. And we're not going to go crazy. We're going to build a wash. Now, let me show you how you do that. Because you've got to be, there's a very specific texture you need. And then we'll get to the brushes and stuff that you need. You only need 2 brushes. So, first off, you take your paint. And you put it in a little bowl. You've got to have a bowl like this with where you can play. All right? You put it in there. Don't put too much. Just cover the bottom. And then you have a little pipeki, says this, like this. And you add water. Now, important is, as you add your water, to check its consistency, you take the brush you're going to use, you mix that in. Okay, so what we have here, let me just see if you can see. All right, so you have a very runny consistency, but if you put it down there and it doesn't make a blot that's thick enough, if it makes that little fish eye around it, a little runniness, you know, that it actually runs, then it's perfect. All right, so you just check it there. You see it runs down. That's what you want. All right. So this is your applicator brush. All thing is fine. This is your control brush. With this, you're going to take away whatever you don't need. So this has got to be dry. This is what the towel is here for. So you take this off your towel, put it there where you can get to it. This brush is dry, and now we're going to apply it. But for a better color, and guys, this is so important because this gives you a hell of a lot more control. I'm going to start at the back here, all right? Wet your model. So I've got a spray can here. So I go like that. Let's do 3 blocks for now. Wet it. Don't wet it. Just like that. That's fine. Then you take your applicator brush, put it in your wash. and brush it on. Don't stuff around. Brush, Papa, brush. Like this. We're only going to worry in between the uprights now. We're not going to, I'll show you now what we're going to do with the uprights. Over the decal, that's fine. Okay, so you have that sort of finish. Now, from here on, you can modulate that with your dry brush, your control brush, where you want the paint to be. If it pulls like that, just pick it up a little bit, keep your brush dry. Swipe that away a bit. This, yeah, you just want a little bit in the middle there. So we concentrate more against the upright, keep the dirt there. Now, look, I know there's guys that go, oh, 600 prototypical pictures and stuff. My view on weathering is it just needs to be interesting to look at, all right? Be careful. If you do this method and you're lying the thing flat, obviously you'll have to work a lot more with this. Now, because we're working up, I can't put this down flat because I've got these little things on, they're resin. If you pop this thing on its side now, it'll just go click, click, and it's off. All right? So, yeah, now you carry on. Don't stuff around. You can gooi. Go block by block. You see now that I didn't put water here. Sorry, that's what I was meant to tell you. Where you want your weathering to be slightly heavier, don't wet it. So I want that panel to be slightly darker than the rest and to not be overly funky. Let's do another one. Let's do it over that decal. All right. No water. See? All right. Take away what you don't need. Now, you will see that the wash naturally makes a patch, okay? Where it wants to be. You can just modulate the patches where you want it darker or lighter or whatever, like that. Now, the other thing is, when you put your layer on like that, remember, when it's done, you can always go back and touch up where you want more. So this is a very, very controlled method. And you can also go extremely light, like I did the other side, where you basically just see a shade at the back. And now this is very, very important, guys. I cannot stress this enough. The secret to weathering, very simple. If you look at a prototype and you see fine little lines on that thing running down the side, and you start hitting this thing with a small, minute little brush and putting fine little lines, you will have a stuff up. It will not look right. Because this is in scale and it's so much smaller, never ever have a line, ever. You stuff up a whole weathering project by having a solid line. This method, you will never have a line. It will always blend in and you will have that sort of thing. Okay, so let's do the two in the middle there. We do them slightly less. So you go in with your wash. Okay, now you'll see once we modulate here that because there's water underneath and we started with a wet surface, it immediately you take off more material. Always just run your brush down there and pick up where it will pick it up, where you dam at the bottom. So I want this to be slightly lighter, See, every time you dry it, you will take more off. If the brush is dry, it soaks up whatever you put down there. So I want this one to be clean on the inside, slightly on the, that one I want more covered, but less than this one. So I want to give that slightly less, just a cleaner panel. Look, at the end of the day, you want the wagon to be interesting to look at. That's the main thing here. That's the whole thing with weathering. You can try and weather prototypically and have a model that turned out that looks like a dirty bottle, like it was standing outside in the dust or whatever. You don't want that. If you weather, you got to make it interesting enough to look at. So we will get to all of that now. All right, so let's do the last bit here. I want it too heavy there. And we chuck wash at it. Wet it nicely. Don't be shy, don't play around, don't worry for overspin. It's all weathering. Weathering, there are no rules, man. There's no rules. So just pick up there. Slightly lighter. You see the that. That one was clean, so let's leave this one slightly more dirty, right? Because this one here is rather clean, that one, just to break it up a bit so we don't have, you know, a too consistent panel. Now this lot will dry, and other side I've done a very subtle one to show you what it does when you wet the whole thing. That one, the other side, I just squirted everything, washed everything down, and this is what that looks like. Okay, now this is, I did this last night, so this is now nice and dry. You see, once it dries, where we shade it, there is, I don't want to say a brown sheen over it, but there's a dirt sheen. You can see it very, very clearly over it. But on the sides, on our shading, we left more brown there, and that works with the shading to give you that sort of effect of dirt accumulating on you. Now I will show you now how I do these. Let that stuff, that side just dry a bit, and then we'll move on to the roof a bit later. Now you see here, what is lovely about this, you see there, when I did the uprights, there was a bit of runniness here, and it's natural because it gives you that effect around, which is beautiful. And this is the nice thing with weathering with a wash, an acrylic wash, is the control you have and the effect you get for free. You get it absolutely for free. It just happens. All right. Now, okay. So now for this light brown effect, we had burnt umber, and you can put a touch of white to it if you want it. I lovingly call this, I've got all my paints as I go along, they get funny names. So let's call this chapoon. This is chapoon. It's in Afrikaans, you got to, it's this between shit and pumpkin. You know, it's that sort of color. All right, so you can put it in English, shakunken, or something like that. That gives you that, it's not a rusty color, it's a dirt color. It's a dirty brown sort of color. All right. Now, this stuff dries very quickly. So if you leave this for about 15 minutes or so, you can do other stuff, then it's fine. But it's not necessary. We can do the uprights now. And this is great fun. What I got here is raw umber. Now, raw umber is a very, very dark, deep brown. The color, the raw umber color, I call, wait, let's not do it like that. I call a rude mood. It is just a dark, brutally somber color. It's just dark. All right, so let's do it a little bit like that. We pop it in here. Look, and there's no exact signs here, eh? Don't. When you mix your paint, even this side or that side, these things were never exactly the same either side. So don't even worry about if there's a little bit of brown in there. Don't overcomplicate things. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't overcomplicate it, because you will drive yourself up the wall. Right, so we give it some water. I don't even, let's just see, consistency here. Yeah, that's perfect. So let's mix this in a bit. Let's see if it's still perfect. Yeah, that's fine. So now we have a nice dark brown color. You can see here, if I show you, I don't know if you can see, you know, that's the light, that's the dark. So it's raw umber versus burned umber, basically. All right. Now, get your brush ready. Don't even clean brushes, it's fine. Now on this, there, where you want contrast, okay? Chuck it down like that. But remember what I said about the line. You see that line there now? That's crappy. So just use your control brush. Work it in a bit. All right, so now you have your dark color on the upright. And best you just run all of them now. Do them one shot and come back. All right. No exact signs, just, you know, get the shades there, get that shade there, get that shade there, get that shade there, get that one there, get this one there. Get that one there. All right. Now come with your control brush. Blend, just get rid of the line. Okay. So basically, just that line there. Just do that. Just get rid of the line. You don't want the line. If you transfer some of this dark paint over to the center of your panel, hey, bargain. Don't worry about it. Okay. Just get rid of the lines. You never want the line. Like I say to the guys, if you ever do get a line on something, blend it in that it looks like a streak, that there's no defined edges to it. You don't want that. You don't want a defined line that stuffs up everything. All right. So now this will connect in with the shading you've done previously. Now you see this here. Don't worry about that too much. That's not a line, it's just wetness. So you'll see as it dries, you see there, it just goes away. So don't let that throw you and overdo it there, because you might disturb the line underneath that you just painted, because we're going very quickly here now. Normally I let this dry for a while. You see, so it blends in. There's nothing in here, it's just air. It gets dry. Yes. And there's your basic weathering base. You've got some shades in there. Wherever you have pooling here now, like that there, you can just leave that. It'll do the same as it did on the other side. We made a bit of a mess there. Just brush it away. Nice thing with this is, wherever it goes, it makes a slight discoloration, and it all just adds to the final effect. Now, because this is underneath here, and there's a lot of dirt coming up from the wheels, this bit here at the bottom, I will do with the airbrush and just shade it. And then after that's done, we will do a lower, just an infill with the wash, just to hit the panel lines. Now, this is the other thing. This is the next thing we need to do. Just wash this off. Get both of them fairly clean. Now, the wash at the top, where you need to actually showcase all your hard work, both from the designers right up to you that put these things on blade of right or whatever, all the little rivets that sits there, all these, you want to, I don't want to say weather, but you want to make them pop out, all right? And the only thing that does that is a wash. So instead of going now with anything else, because it's on the roof, you go with a black, straight black. Don't put anything on it. And where's the other brush? All right. Careful with black, dudes. Careful with black. Black and white are volatile colors, eh? You can stuff it up very quickly. So with this, I'm going to go slightly thinner that it runs, and I'm going with a slightly different brush. So I must just go get a brush there. Mix, mix, mix. Check your consistency. It's running. I'm going to put a drop more in there. You'll get a feel for it later on. It starts happening by itself. All right. Now, this brush might be a little bit big, so I'm not going to go with that. Let me just get a slightly smaller brush that is more suitable to our needs. This is not exactly what I want. Bear with me. This sort of brush will do the trick. Finer little hairs, because you need to pinpoint more what you're doing. So, same story. Don't wet anything. Hit the black. and just run it over your beam. If there's spillage, don't worry too much about it. We can always clear it with a with our control brush later. But what is nice, you see there now, there it ran off a bit. Now, you know, this is not what you do it like that. Brush it down, it will make a slight little sheen there, which is fine because it just adds to the overall look of the thing. Now, a little bit more here. Get the top of the rib as well, otherwise it looks funny. Look, you can do a pin wash here, but you will see with this way it does, the capillary action of the thing does stick around the rivet and give you that same effect. And now, yes, you just carry on like this and do all of them, which I'm not going to bore you with now. I will do it and then we'll come back to it once it's done, and I'll show you what that looks like. Now, you see I've got rivets on the side here too, so this here, you see how it takes it. So you just cover that. That you have that little bit of pin wash around it. It's like a modeling friend of mine says, he says, you know, it must just look like you touched everything on that wagon, and then normally the result is good. It must just not look like you missed something, like there was somewhere where the paintbrush didn't touch. That's his saying in life. That's the way he does it. So you just go like that. Let it flow by itself. Alright, so you get the idea there. So you can see the difference between those and the ones at the top that we haven't done. You can see there. Alright, and then the back we'll turn it and do the back. Now also, this black I use as a shader. So on your bogies, everywhere where there's a recess, okay, paint this stuff in. Because this is probably the best creator of depth that you can ever find. This shading turns a normal bland side frame like that into a 3D piece of art. It's just the way it works. Alright, so everywhere where there's recesses, fill it in with a black. If it's not enough to your taste, make the black thicker and go again. That's the name. Just cover that. Yeah, on the bearings, on the bearing caps, just stick your wash on there. Now, later on, when we're done with all this, we will make a thicker black wash. Actually a very thin normal paint. And wherever you see that you're not happy with your, where either it didn't cover or whatever, or you want just a slightly better contrast, we can run that in again and do the wash again. And make it like on top of the bogies. I like to do a darker color just to give that effect of, you know, the 3D effect. All right. So that's basically what we need there. Okay. All right. I'm going to do all this. Takes a lot of time. I'm going to do all of these now, and then I'll come back and show you what it's like when it's done, and then we'll take it further. Okay, so let me just run through these, and then we'll come back. Okay, good.